Good morning. I'm Jake.
That's not how the video starts.
Hi. I'm Jake.
There you go. And I'm Tim. Sorry, you threw me off with the good morning.
We had to keep restarting the video.
Well, things happen.
All right. I'm Jake. That's Tim, and welcome to PT&J. So this morning we're going to be doing a continuation of our video series on the Fivefold ministry.
Yes. And just for the sake of kind of helping you remember some things, I wrote some stuff down for you, unedited but not unprepared. Now, here are the 5 E's of the Fivefold ministry. This is something we really hold high value on in Lakeside Worship Center at the church that we attend. And that is the apostle, the prophet, the evangelist, the pastor, and the teacher. Last week we covered the apostle. Mm-hmm. This week we're covering the prophet. And let me just give you the 5 E's real quick. The apostle establishes, which we talked about last week. The prophet examines. The prophet examines an atmosphere. He examines a person. And God gives him revelation on that person. And he will say what needs to be said in order to change that person's future. And sometimes what the prophet says can be perceived as really super harsh.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh.
They're not always fun.
Right. But they see the future and they prophesy. The evangelist extends, which we'll talk about next week. The pastor encourages. He's the softie. He loves everybody.
So cuddly.
Yep. And then the teacher equips. The teacher is the one that breaks down the scripture. So those 5 E's may be helpful for you in order to be able to remember the Fivefold ministry and what they do.
Mm-hmm. So one thing that we have to do is clarify what exactly the prophet is, because there's prophets in the Old Testament and they're clearly defined. When you got a prophet in the Old Testament, you better do exactly what he says, because it comes from God.
Well, and another thing is a lot of times they call prophets seers. Now, not all prophets see, but all seers are prophets. And a seer was someone who saw into the spirit realm. Ezekiel could be like a seer. The Samuel was called a seer, not just a prophet. So a prophet is someone who speaks.
Right.
Because they hear.
Mm-hmm.
A seer is one who speaks because he sees. And there is a little bit of a difference. And also in a New Testament sense, when you talk about prophet, it can also be confused sometimes with prophecy. Not everybody who prophesies is a prophet.
Sure.
Prophet is an office that someone carries because God has called them into that office.
Specifically which God had. Jesus himself.
Right.
Because Jesus appoints the specific office of prophet that we're referring to today.
Right.
Directly out of Ephesians 4.
Right. So and Jesus was the ultimate fivefold minister. He was the only person that had all 5 in one person.
Yeah. So these are positions that are called specifically by Jesus himself.
Right.
So this isn't something that you're born with a gift of prophecy, or you get a prophecy for someone that God
specifically
sends.
Talking about the office.
Yeah, specifically talking about you don't wake up one day and say, you know what, I think I'm going to be a prophet.
Right. So let me practice.
Yeah, let me practice.
I'm going to go to school and I'm going to practice, and I'm going to grab this book and it says stop dating the church. So I'm prophesying there's someone who is unfaithful and treating the church like just a girlfriend when you need to treat her like your wife and you need to straighten up her. I got this bottle of hand sanitizer and Jesus is going to cleanse you. It's not how it works.
No, this isn't something you choose. This is something you're chosen for.
Right. Specifically speaking about the office, which is the fivefold ministry. Now, there are other types of ways that prophecies can go forth as well. There are some people that are born with a natural gift to see into the spirit realm. There are some people that are born with a natural, God just wired them that way. Mm-hmm. And that actually can be cultivated. Now, again, we're not talking about cultivating it by doing weird stuff. We're talking about cultivating it by studying the Word, by praying, by hanging around people with the gift that are more mature than you are. Just like somebody has a natural gift to teach.
Yeah.
They're just born to teach.
Yeah.
That could probably coincide with the office, mm-hmm. maybe, but I've seen some people that seem to have the gift, that they're gifted toward prophecy, but they're not necessarily a prophet by office. And then there's also the gift of the Spirit, falls during a church service. God needs to give a word to somebody, and he just picks someone. It doesn't have to be someone who's a prophet or anything else, and they just give a word of prophecy.
Because if you go through the Bible, while it doesn't explicitly say anyone, but Paul tells us to pray for the gift of prophecy.
Yeah, he says, eagerly desire the spiritual gifts, especially that you may prophesy.
So with that, can anyone prophesy that's, legitimately seeking a spiritual gift?
I would say anyone could prophesy, but it's the Spirit's role to select who does.
Sure.
So I can't say, I'd really like to prophesy today, so God pick me. That it probably isn't going to work. It's coming on whomever. So anyone can prophesy, but everyone's not probably going to.
Okay. So now that we've cleared all that up and we kind of understand what kind of, I don't want to say levels, but what kind of segments of prophecy we're talking about. We are talking about the office of the prophet.
Right.
Ephesians 4 prophet appointed by Jesus. Not something that you can choose, but that you're chosen for.
Right.
So what kind of traits are we going to see out of this prophet?
Well, number one, he's going to appear to be harsh and sometimes judgmental. Because he's coming in and he's trying to wreck things that are comfortable and status quo. The prophet's not just going to come in and sit and say, "Oh, this is nice. I'm going to sit in this little cushy chair, and we're just going to accept this." He's coming in to change the city.
So that sounds like it could be pretty scary, which isn't all that different from what you'd see in the Old Testament.
It's not a whole lot different. Matter of fact, I would say it's very similar. The only difference between a New Testament prophet and an Old Testament prophet, in my mind, is really, I can't think of anything other than if the Old Testament prophet was wrong, he got stoned.
Yeah, that would be unfortunate.
Yes.
And I don't think we're allowed to do that.
Yes.
I'm going to have to double check, but...
Yeah, I don't think there's any stonings in the New Testament.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about America, here in Kentucky.
Well, I don't know the law on that.
I don't know. I have to find out. I don't know anyone that's actually been stoned or been part of a stone.
Well, I used to get stoned, but that's a different type.
That's completely different.
Yeah. Thank God for Jesus.
So long story short, when you're talking about the Ephesians 4 Fivefold ministry office of a prophet, it's going to be someone that can come into, I mean, are we talking just like a church or like a group of churches? A city or
as a matter of fact, prophets are not usually tied to a church. They can be. They have a home church, but a lot of times they're traveling and going different places, basically tearing down their little Lego houses and making people cry.
It's a gift, it's an appointment, it's an office, and maybe it's just not one church that gets to hold on to them.
Right. There are some, like I said, we have someone that operates in the prophetic that he travels. Don't get me wrong, but he considers this his church home, and he's here a lot. Actually, he's hosting a conference here this week. Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Definitely. So prophet. They're real today, but I tell you what, there's a lot of people running around with that office and title.
Yeah.
That
if you have the office, you don't need to tell people.
Yeah.
When the guy, Dr. Norm, came with the prophetic gift here, I recognized it, and then I just basically acknowledged what he was and let him function that gift. There was no him announcing himself.
Something's different about that guy.
Right.
And see through you.
One thing, I don't know where we are on time, but one thing that's really important to understand about the fivefold ministry is the prophet can do something the pastor can't. And each of the different fivefold, the apostle, the evangelist, the teacher, they can all do things the other can't. And that's why we can't reach maturity unless they're all functioning within a local church. If you're only hearing from the pastor, then you're just getting the soft side of ministry, basically. And don't get me wrong, pastors can toughen up and they can say the hard things, but there's something about that office of prophet that really just drives something home. Their word, piercing is the word I would use when they speak. It's like the words penetrate. Yeah. Where a pastor, it's more like the butter on the popcorn.
You're the shepherd,
right?
Yeah, and the prophet is the
prophet
guy that comes in and makes the sheep really uncomfortable.
Yes,
but makes them better.
Yep, stronger, more mature.
Definitely, because that's what the whole fivefold ministry is about.
Yes.
Is maturing the body.
Right.
so that they're not tossed about with every wind of doctrine.
This is an awesome topic, and really it's not covered very thoroughly, hardly anywhere. Kevin Wallace, what's the name of that church?
Oh, Redemption to the Nations?
Redemption to the Nations. Check out that video. He's got a video on the Fivefold ministry that is phenomenal.
Yeah, because this is something we've done a lot of research on, and there's just not a lot of data out there to go over. So we've done a lot of study and experienced some pretty interesting things, that's for sure.
Well, I think that pretty much covers what we could say. If anybody has any questions, they can ask them in the comments. Like, share, help us get those video counts up.
Definitely. We covet your shares. Long story short, thanks for watching, and remember, life is so much sweeter when you start your day. You want to walk over there and start turning off the camera?
Oh no, I like the awkward moment it takes for me to get over there.
With the heaping helping of PT&J.
Later.